I still remember the sound of rain that morning. It wasn't heavy, but soft and steady, the kind of rain that makes everything feel slower, quieter, heavier. The church smelled like wet flowers and candles. Everyone was dressed in black. I could hear people whispering my name, offering condolences that blurred into the same sentence. "I'm so sorry for your loss." But I didn't cry. I couldn't. My hands were folded so tightly in my lap that my knuckles had turned white. My husband, Daniel, was lying only a few feet away from me in a polished oak casket. It still didn't feel real. Just 7 days earlier, we had breakfast together. Oatmeal, black coffee, 2 slices of toast. We talked about repainting the living room and laughed about our neighbor's new dog that never stopped barking. There had been nothing strange about that day. Then, the next morning, a call from the hospital. Heart attack, sudden, no warning. And now, a week later, here I was, watching people file past his coffin, whispering goodbyes to a man who was supposed to grow old with me. The priest's voice echoed gently through the hall, reading from the Book of Psalms. I tried to listen, but my eyes kept drifting toward the photograph on the easel, Daniel smiling in his gray sweater, the one I still hadn't washed because it still smelled like him. Every breath hurt. Then it happened. At first, I thought I imagined it, a faint buzz like a bee trapped somewhere under the flowers. Then it grew louder, a vibration, short pauses, another vibration. People started turning their heads. The sound was coming from the casket. I froze. A few gasps filled the room. Someone whispered, "Is that a phone?" Yes, it was. It was his phone. For a moment, nobody moved. The priest stopped mid-sentence. My heart was pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. Daniel's phone was ringing from inside his suit pocket, the same phone I had placed there myself because I thought he should have it just one last time. A strange comfort, I'd told myself, not wanting to let go completely. But now the phone was ringing, over and over, muffled by the wood of the casket. The funeral director looked at me, waiting for a signal. My sister touched my arm. "Do you want me to?" I shook my head before she could finish. No, I needed to be the one. The sound grew louder in the silence of the church. I stood up, knees trembling, and walked slowly to the coffin. Every step felt like walking through thick mud. When I reached it, I placed my hand on the polished lid. It was cold. The phone buzzed again beneath my fingertips. "Maybe it's an alarm," someone whispered behind me. But no, it wasn't an alarm. The ringtone was unmistakable. His personal ringtone. The one he'd set just for me. The melody we used to dance to in our kitchen at night. My chest tightened. With a shaking breath, I looked at the funeral director. "Open it," I whispered. He hesitated, but something in my eyes must have convinced him. He nodded and gently lifted the lid halfway. The room fell completely silent. Even the rain outside seemed to pause. There it was, his phone, glowing faintly through the fabric of his black suit jacket. The name on the screen made my blood run cold. Daniel, calling. I couldn't move. My mind refused to make sense of what my eyes were seeing. It was his number, his contact photo, his face smiling on the screen. Someone behind me whispered, "That's impossible." But the phone kept ringing. Before I knew it, my hand reached into the pocket. The phone was warm, vibrating against my palm as if alive. Without thinking, I swiped to answer. "Hello?" At first, there was nothing. Just static, soft and distant like wind across a microphone. Then a voice, his voice. "Anna." My name. Said in the same calm tone he always used when he wanted to comfort me. I froze. "Daniel?" I whispered. No response, just breathing, faint but real. Then again, a little louder. "Anna, please don't be afraid." The phone slipped in my hand. My knees nearly gave out. I pressed it to my ear. "Who is this?" I shouted. "Who's playing this joke?" But deep down, I knew no one could mimic that voice perfectly. Every syllable carried memories, the way he always stretched the A in my name, the soft hum before speaking, This wasn't a recording. This was him. People were staring at me now. The priest whispered something to the funeral director. My sister came closer. Anna. Who is it? I couldn't answer. The voice spoke again. Go home, it said quietly. Check the blue box under the bed. Then the line went dead. For a few seconds, I just stood there, holding the phone to my ear, listening to the silence. Then the screen went black. No missed call, no number logged, nothing. The funeral continued, but I didn't hear a single word. I sat through it like a ghost. People came to hug me. Their lips moved, but I couldn't hear them. The only thing I heard was his voice replaying in my head. Go home. Check the blue box. When the ceremony ended, I walked out alone into the rain. My umbrella stayed closed in my hand. Drops soaked my hair, my coat, but I didn't care. I needed to understand what had just happened. Was it a prank? A malfunction? Or had grief finally made me lose my mind? The phone remained cold and silent in my bag. I looked at it every few seconds, half hoping, half dreading it would ring again. It didn't. When I reached home, the house felt unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else. Daniel's shoes were still by the door. His jacket hung on the hook. The faint smell of his aftershave floated in the air, bitter-sweet and heavy. I turned on the lights. Everything looked exactly as it had the day before he died. The half-finished crossword on the table, the coffee mug with a ring of dried foam. I stood there for a long time, not knowing what to do next. Then I remembered. The blue box, under the bed. My hands were trembling as I walked to our bedroom. The sheets were neatly tucked. I hadn't been able to sleep there since the night he passed. Kneeling, I lifted the edge of the blanket and looked underneath. At first, I didn't see anything. Then, in the far corner, covered in a thin layer of dust, something caught the light. A small blue shoebox. My breath caught in my throat. I pulled it out slowly. It was heavier than I expected. Inside, neatly stacked, were letters, all addressed to me, and on top a small sealed envelope marked "Open only when I'm gone." My heart pounded as I tore it open. Inside was a note, written in Daniel's handwriting. If you're reading this, it means the time came sooner than I thought. Please don't be angry. I did what I had to do. The phone will ring when you're ready. The phone will ring when you're ready. I stared at the words until they blurred. The phone in my bag vibrated once, just once. No ringtone, no number, just a single buzz, like a heartbeat. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table, the blue box beside me, the phone in front of me, waiting for it to ring again. I thought about every conversation we'd ever had, every argument, every time I had told him not to work so late, not to stress about those people at the firm. He'd always brushed it off, saying, "It's better you don't know." Maybe now I was about to find out what he meant. The house creaked with the sound of wind and rain. The clock struck midnight. I was staring at the phone when it lit up again. Same name, same number. Daniel's, calling. My heart leapt into my throat. I reached for it but stopped halfway. If I answered, what would I hear? Was it truly him? Or something pretending to be? The screen blinked twice and went dark. I was left alone again, with the note, the box, and 1,000 questions. By morning, I knew I couldn't tell anyone. They'd think I was losing my mind. But I wasn't imagining the call. I knew his voice. And I knew one thing for certain. Whatever this was, Daniel had planned it long before his death. The blue box was only the beginning. I didn't leave the house that morning. After the second call ended, I sat at the kitchen table for hours, the blue box still open, letters untouched. The note, "The phone will ring when you're ready," stayed in my hand until the ink smudged beneath my thumb. Ready for what? Outside, the sky was gray again, the same washed-out color as the day of the funeral. Every tick of the clock sounded like a question I couldn't answer. Part of me wanted to believe the call was nothing more than a strange network glitch, some cosmic coincidence. But deep down, I knew better. The voice had been Daniel's. No imitation, no recording could have carried that half smile he always had when he said my name. At noon, I forced myself to move. I made coffee, but forgot to drink it. The phone lay face down on the table, black screen, silent. I told myself not to touch it, but every few minutes my eyes drifted back, waiting for it to glow. When it finally vibrated again, I jumped. No ringtone, just that single heartbeat buzz. A message this time, unknown number. Did you open the box? My stomach twisted. I typed back before thinking, who is this? No reply. Seconds stretched into minutes, then another message. Don't be scared, it's still me. Go to the place where we first met. I stared at the words until the letters blurred. He meant the small cafe near the train station, the one with chipped tables and the smell of roasted almonds. That was where Daniel had spilled coffee on my sleeve and spent 20 minutes apologizing. That was where everything began. The rational part of my brain screamed that it was insane to follow a text from a dead man. But grief doesn't listen to logic. It listens to hope. So I went. The cafe looked almost the same after 27 years. Same peeling blue paint on the door, same crooked menu board. The bell above the entrance gave its familiar tired jingle when I pushed it open. The barista, a young woman with pink hair, greeted me with a polite smile. "One cappuccino?" she asked automatically. Daniel's order. I hadn't even opened my mouth. For a second, I couldn't breathe. "How did you know that's what I wanted?" I whispered. She looked confused. "You're Anna, right? He said you'd come." My legs went weak. "He?" She pointed to a small envelope taped beneath the counter. "He dropped this off a week ago, said it was for you." I took the envelope with shaking hands. The handwriting on the front was unmistakable. Daniel's. Inside was a folded piece of paper and an old photo of us sitting right there in that same cafe laughing. On the back of the photo, he had written, "Where it began, you'll find what I couldn't say." The paper held a single sentence, "Check locker 27 at Central Station." I left the cafe without touching the cappuccino. Rain started again, just as it had at the funeral. Each drop hit the pavement like a countdown. Central Station was crowded, noisy, alive. The opposite of the silence that had filled my house for days. I walked past people dragging suitcases, couples hugging goodbye, children chasing pigeons. Locker 27 was tucked away in a dim corner near the restrooms. My hands trembled as I entered Daniel's old 4-digit code. 1203, our anniversary. The door clicked open. Inside was a small black USB drive and a folded map. The map had circles drawn around 3 places: our house, the cafe, and something in the outskirts marked only with an X. The USB drive felt cold and heavy in my palm. I slipped it into my bag and looked around. For a moment, I thought I saw a man watching me from across the hall dark coat, cap pulled low, but when I blinked, he was gone. Back home, I plugged the USB into Daniel's old laptop. A single folder appeared on the screen labeled, "For Anna." Inside were 6 audio files and 1 video. My hands shook so badly I could barely move the mouse. I clicked the first recording. His voice filled the room, clear, alive, real. "If you're hearing this, something went wrong. I was supposed to meet you after the inspection, but I guess I didn't make it back. Don't trust anyone from the firm. They know about the project. They'll come for the files." My heart raced. Inspection? Project? Daniel was an architect. What could possibly be dangerous about building plans? I hid copies in 3 places. You'll find the first in the cafe locker, the second at the lake house, the third, you'll know when you're ready. The message ended with a soft exhale, like he was about to say more but changed his mind. I played the second recording. It was shorter. Only 1 line. "Remember our promised truth before peace." Then silence. I sat there staring at the screen, the rain outside matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. Truth before peace. It was something we'd said to each other years ago after his father's death. We promised never to keep secrets, no matter how painful. So why had he hidden all this? I clicked the video file. The image flickered to life. Daniel sitting at his desk, tired but smiling faintly. Behind him, stacks of blueprints. He looked straight into the camera. Anna, if this reaches you, it means they silenced me. Please listen carefully. The people funding the project aren't who they claim to be. If they think you have what I found, they'll try to reach you. Don't go to the police. Some of them work for the same men. Find Paul Morgan. He'll help you. The screen went black. I stared at the frozen reflection of my own face in the laptop. The name echoed in my head, Paul Morgan. I searched through our contacts. Nothing. Then I remembered. Paul had been Daniel's college roommate, an engineer who moved abroad years ago. We'd lost touch. The phone buzzed again. Another message from the same unknown number. You found the drive. Good. Now leave the house. My throat went dry. Why? I typed. The reply came instantly. They're already there. A car engine roared outside. Headlights flashed across the window. I ran to the living room and peeked through the curtain. A black sedan was parked across the street, engine still running. 2 silhouettes inside. My pulse thundered in my ears. Could grief really invent something this specific? I turned off the lights and crouched behind the sofa. Minutes passed like hours. Then the car door opened. A man stepped out, looked directly at my window, and spoke into a phone. The device in my hand buzzed again. Back door, now. I didn't think. I just moved. I grabbed the blue box, the USB, my keys, and slipped out through the kitchen door into the rain. The night air was freezing. I ran down the alley, splashing through puddles, heart hammering. Behind me, the slam of a car door. Someone shouted my name. I turned a corner and hid behind a dumpster, gasping for breath. My phone lit up again. Another message. Go to the lake house. It's safe there for now. The lake house. We hadn't been there in years. It was Daniel's childhood cabin, miles away from the city. No neighbors, no signal. No one would think to look there unless they knew him well. I hesitated only a second. Then I ran to my car and drove. The road to the lake was long and winding. Rain blurred the windshield, wipers squeaking with every pass. Every headlight behind me looked like a threat. Twice I thought a car was following, but when I sped up, it disappeared. By the time I reached the cabin, it was past midnight. The place looked smaller than I remembered, swallowed by darkness and trees. When I stepped inside, the smell of cedar and dust hit me like a wave of memory. Everything was still the same. The old plaid sofa, the photographs on the wall, the fishing rods by the door. Only one thing was new. A small envelope pinned to the fridge with a magnet shaped like a seashell. My name on the front. Inside was another handwritten note. This one wasn't Daniel's handwriting. It was unfamiliar, rough. If you want to know the truth about your husband, come to the pier at sunrise. Come alone. I read it 3 times, trying to make sense of it. The pier was only a few hundred meters away, down a path through the trees. The lake was black and still, hidden behind mist. I locked all the doors and sat by the window until dawn. The phone stayed silent. I held it in my lap anyway, afraid to put it down, afraid it would ring again when I wasn't ready. When the first light touched the water, I finally stood up. Every step toward the pier felt heavier, like walking into someone else's dream. Fog wrapped around the dock, erasing the horizon. And there, at the very end, stood a man in a dark coat, back turned to me, phone pressed to his ear. For a second, I thought my heart had stopped. The height, the posture, even the way he tilted his head, it was Daniel. I whispered his name. He turned. It wasn't him. But the man's face was pale, eyes sunken, and in his hand was a phone identical to Daniel's. He raised it slightly, as if showing it to me. Then my own phone rang, the same tone, the same melody from our kitchen dances. I answered. The voice on the line was Daniel's again, softer now, almost pleading. Anna, you have to listen. He's not the enemy. He's me. The man at the pier stepped closer, speaking in sync with the voice through the phone, word for word. Every syllable matched. It was like hearing Daniel in stereo, one living, one unseen. My knees buckled. I dropped the phone. It hit the wooden planks with a sharp crack. The sound echoed across the lake. When I looked up again, the man was gone. Only the mist remained, thick and white, swallowing the end of the pier. The phone screen flickered once and went black. I stood there until the fog lifted, shaking, soaked, numb. I didn't know what to believe anymore, ghost, trick, or something far more real. But one thing was certain. The voice I had heard wasn't finished. He still wanted me to follow, and I would. Because when love refuses to die, it always finds a way to call back. The sun finally broke through the clouds as I stood on that empty pier, clutching the silent phone. My clothes were soaked, my hair clinging to my face, but I didn't feel the cold. All I could hear was the echo of his voice. He's not the enemy. He's me. For a long time, I couldn't move. Every instinct told me to run back to the cabin, lock the doors, and pretend none of this was happening. But something deeper, the same part of me that had answered the phone at the funeral, refused to stop. If Daniel had left clues, I had to find them, even if they broke me. I walked back to the cabin through the dripping trees. The air smelled of pine and rain and something metallic, almost like rust. Inside, the room felt smaller than before, the silence thicker. I sat by the table, replaying the pier in my mind. The stranger, the phone, the way his lips had moved in perfect rhythm with Daniel's voice. There was only one explanation that made any sense: recordings. But how could they sync so perfectly with someone speaking in real time? Unless Daniel had known exactly what would happen. The thought sent a chill down my spine. I dried myself off, lit the old fireplace, and opened the blue box again. Beneath the letters I hadn't read yet was a small key I hadn't noticed before. It had a number engraved on it, 47. Next to it, a short note, "For when you reach the cabin." I turned the key over in my hand. The only locked place in the cabin was the wooden chest near the stairs, Daniel's chest. He'd always said it held tools and nonsense. I'd never opened it in all our years together. Now my hands were trembling as I slid the key in. It turned easily. Inside were several folders, a second USB drive, and a faded map of the lake area. Red circles marked 3 spots: the pier, the boathouse, and something labeled simply North Ridge Cave. On top of the folders lay an old cassette recorder. A small sticky note on it read, "Play me last." I took out the folders first. They were filled with architectural sketches, blueprints, and letters from a company I didn't recognize, Aquitas Infrastructure Group. Each letter was stamped confidential. Daniel had been working for them before he died. That much I knew. But these weren't ordinary projects. One plan showed a set of underground tunnels connecting several facilities near the lake. Another mentioned energy transfer systems and containment structures. It didn't look like anything related to architecture. A sound outside made me jump, a branch snapping. I peered through the window but saw only the reflection of my own frightened face. The forest was still. I plugged the second USB into the laptop. This time there was a video, grainy, low light, filmed inside what looked like a concrete corridor. Daniel's voice spoke softly behind the camera. "If you're watching this, it means you found the cabin key." Good. I couldn't tell you the truth in person. They were monitoring everything. What you saw at the funeral wasn't an accident. It was the only way to disappear. My stomach turned. Disappear? He had planned his own death? They wanted the prototype data. I encrypted it and left it in 3 places you'd recognize. The cave holds the final piece. Don't trust Paul. He's not who he used to be. The video cut to static. For a few seconds, I sat frozen, the glow of the laptop painting my face pale blue. Don't trust Paul. But Daniel himself had told me in the earlier message to find him. Who was lying? The man in the first video or the one speaking now? The phone vibrated. A new message. You found the second drive. Good work. Go to the cave before nightfall. I typed back with trembling fingers. Who are you? No answer. I stared at the map. The cave was less than 2 miles north of the cabin, hidden behind the ridge. I knew the path. We'd hiked there years ago when the world was still simple and I believed I understood my husband. I packed a flashlight, water, and the recorder labeled, "Play Me Last." Then I stepped out into the forest. The trail was muddy and narrow, leaves stuck to my boots, the air thick with humidity. Every few steps, branches snapped somewhere behind me, though when I turned, nothing was there. The deeper I went, the darker it became. Even the birds had gone silent. By the time I reached the ridge, fog had rolled in, swallowing the trees. The entrance to the cave yawned between 2 jagged rocks like an open mouth. I hesitated. Something inside me screamed to go back, but I switched on the flashlight and stepped in. The air inside was cold and damp. Water dripped from the ceiling, echoing softly. The walls were covered with strange chalk marks, arrows, circles, and what looked like initials, Dr. Daniel Richter. He had been here. I followed the markings deeper until the tunnel opened into a small chamber. In the center sat a metal box about the size of a shoebox, half buried in sand. Taped to it was a note in Daniel's handwriting. If you love me, trust what you hear, not what you see. I lifted the box carefully. Inside were more documents and a small digital recorder. I pressed play, his voice again, calm, steady, alive. Anna, if you've made it here, I'm proud of you. I wish I could hold you one more time, but I had to vanish before they reached me. What I found in those blueprints wasn't architecture. It was surveillance. Entire networks built to monitor private citizens. I tried to expose it. They silenced everyone involved. I couldn't let them use you to reach me, so I made them believe I was gone. I covered my mouth with my hand. The phone ringing in the coffin, the staged funeral. It all connected now. He had faked his death, or tried to. There's someone helping you. He's part of my team. If he finds you, listen. But test him first. Ask about the cafe photo. If he doesn't know, run. The message ended. A gust of cold air swept through the cave, rattling the paper in my hand. I felt watched. My flashlight flickered. Then, from behind me, a voice. Anna. I spun around. A beam of light cut through the darkness. Another flashlight. A man stepped forward slowly, hands raised. It's me, Paul. He looked older than I remembered. Beard gray, eyes tired. He stopped a few feet away, careful not to startle me. Daniel told me you'd come. My heart pounded. I remembered the warning. Don't trust Paul. I raised the flashlight toward his face. Say something only Daniel would know. He blinked. The cafe. You hated the almond cookies but pretended to like them because he looked so happy eating them. I froze. He knew, exactly as Daniel had said. Paul sighed, lowering his light. I know this is impossible to believe, but Daniel's alive. Or, at least he was 3 days ago. He sent me here to finish what he started. I stared at him, words trapped in my throat. Alive. The world tilted beneath me. Where is he? Paul hesitated. They took him. The same people who came to your house. But he left something for you. One last message. He reached into his coat and handed me a small memory card sealed in plastic. Play it on the recorder he left in the cabin. Before I could speak, he added, and don't stay here after dark. The signal jammers turn on at night. He turned and started back toward the forest, disappearing into the fog before I could ask another question. By the time I reached the cabin again, dusk had fallen. The sky burned orange behind the trees. I locked the door, lit the fireplace, and placed the recorder on the table. The memory card slid in perfectly. I pressed play. For a moment, only static. Then Daniel's voice, soft, tired, but still filled with that warmth that could make any room feel safe. If you're hearing this, I didn't make it, but you did. What they're building isn't just surveillance, it's control. Entire lives mapped, emotions predicted. You always told me truth mattered more than peace, so here it is. The truth will cost you your peace, Anna. The words hit me like a wave. He paused, breathing audibly. The last file is hidden in a place only we shared, where the sky meets the water. You'll understand when you see it. And Anna, I'm sorry for everything. I had to make you believe I was gone because it was the only way to keep you safe. The recorder clicked off. I sat there, staring at the embers in the fireplace, tears streaming silently down my face. So many lies, so much love buried under fear. Outside, the rain had stopped. The air felt charged, waiting. I looked at the photo from the cafe again. On the back, Daniel had written, "Where it began, you'll find what I couldn't say. Where the sky meets the water, the lake, our spot, the small cliff where we used to watch sunsets." I grabbed my coat, flashlight, and the phone and stepped into the night. The forest was pitch black now. Each step crunched on wet leaves. Owls hooted somewhere in the distance. When I reached the cliff, the moonlight shimmered across the lake like a sheet of glass. For a moment, everything looked peaceful again, almost like before. Then I saw it. Something metallic glinting at the edge of the rocks. A small waterproof case wedged between two stones. Inside was a single flash drive and a photograph. The photo was recent. Daniel standing by a metal door marked with the logo of Equitas. He looked thinner, his eyes hollow, but alive. On the back, one line, "Truth before peace." I plugged the flash drive into my phone using the adapter he'd left. A video opened automatically. The same corridor from before, but this time he was facing the camera. "They found out I'm alive. If they reach you before this does, don't believe anything they say. The system goes live in 3 days. If you want to stop them, you'll need the access codes I sent to Paul." The screen shook as someone shouted in the background. Daniel looked back, panicked. "They're here. Anna, whatever happens, don't let them." The image cut to black. I stood on the cliff staring at my reflection on the dark water. My husband had been alive, fighting something far bigger than either of us, and now he might be gone again. For real this time. The phone buzzed once more. Unknown number. "He trusted you. Finish what he started." I looked out across the lake, wind whipping my hair, rain starting again in cold, sharp drops. For the first time since the funeral, I felt no fear, only purpose. If Daniel had died for the truth, I wouldn't let it be buried. I turned back toward the cabin, holding the flash drive tight in my hand. Behind me, thunder rolled across the sky. Somewhere deep inside the forest, a faint ringtone echoed, the same melody as before, the sound of a man refusing to stay silent, and I followed it. The storm grew worse as I followed the faint ringtone through the forest. Branches cracked under my feet, and lightning flashed across the sky like veins of white fire. The sound was distant but constant, the same soft melody Daniel had chosen for our wedding anniversary years ago. It guided me through the darkness, pulling me forward like a thread I couldn't cut. The path led me back toward the cabin, but something felt different now. Every shadow seemed alive. Every gust of wind whispered my name. When I reached the clearing, the ringtone stopped. Silence. Then a single flash of light from inside the cabin window, like a phone screen turning on. I approached carefully. The door was slightly open, creaking with every breeze. Inside, the fireplace was still burning, but the recorder and the laptop were gone. Only the blue box remained on the table, its lid half closed. I stepped closer. A new note lay on top of it in Daniel's handwriting. "If you found the truth, there's one more call to take." The phone vibrated in my pocket before I could even finish reading. My chest tightened. I pulled it out. The screen read, "Daniel, calling." I answered. "Daniel?" Static. Then his voice soft and urgent. "Anna, you did it. You found everything." I pressed the phone so hard to my ear it hurt. "Where are you? Tell me where you are." He sighed, that familiar half-laugh he always made when he was trying to calm me down. "I can't tell you. Not yet. They're still watching. But listen, you have the files now. Don't send them anywhere. Wait until you get a second call from an unknown number starting with +144. That will be the signal." I gripped the phone tighter. "You faked your death, Daniel. You let me bury you." Tears burned in my eyes. "Do you have any idea what that did to me?" For a moment, he didn't answer. Then, "I know. I'm sorry. I thought it would keep you safe. I didn't expect them to come after you, too." Lightning lit the room. For an instant, I saw my reflection in the window. Pale, trembling, older. "I don't care about safety," I said. "I just want to know if you're alive." His breathing filled the line. "I'm alive, but not for long if you don't do what I say." The call ended. I stood there in the flickering firelight, my heart breaking all over again. Every time I thought the story was finished, another page appeared. I wanted to throw the phone into the flames, to end the madness. But then it buzzed again. "Unknown number. He can't call anymore. They traced it. Leave now." I froze. The message came exactly 20 seconds after the call. Whoever this was, they were watching both of us in real time. I grabbed the flash drive, the blue box, and Daniel's letters and ran out into the storm. Rain hit my face like needles. Headlights cut through the darkness ahead. Another car, parked at the edge of the dirt road. A man stepped out, holding something in his hand that gleamed under the lightning. "Anna!" he shouted over the wind. "It's Paul!" I stopped halfway down the path. "How did you find me?" He held up his phone. "Daniel sent me the coordinates before they caught him. He said you'd have the data." The word "caught" made my stomach twist. "What do they want?" I shouted. He didn't answer. Another flash of lightning revealed the object in his hand. Not a weapon, but another phone. Same model as Daniel's. He held it out toward me. "He recorded something for you. It's the last message." I hesitated, then took it. The screen lit up automatically. A video started playing. Daniel's face filled the screen, tired, bruised, but alive. He was sitting in a dim room, walls concrete, a single bulb swinging overhead. His eyes looked straight into the camera. "Anna, if you're seeing this, I didn't make it out. They know everything. Paul helped me hide the files, but they'll come for you next. Don't trust the phones. They're tracking through them. The only safe signal is the landline at the lake house. Call 00781 after you destroy every other device." The video froze. Paul watched me carefully. "We have to move. Now." But something in his eyes didn't match the fear in his voice. His pupils darted toward my bag where the flash drive was. That was all I needed to see. I stepped back. "You're lying." He frowned. "Anna, I'm trying to help you." "No," I said quietly. "You're trying to finish what they started." He lunged forward. I swung the flashlight at his arm and bolted into the trees. Branches whipped my face as I ran. Behind me, his footsteps pounded closer and closer. Then, the ringtone again. Daniel's song. Not from my phone, from the one Paul had dropped in the mud. I stopped just long enough to grab it. The screen flashed, "Incoming call. Private number." I hesitated, then answered. "Anna." It was Daniel's voice again, weak but urgent. "He's not Paul. He's one of them. Get to the boathouse, under the floorboards. You'll find proof." The line went dead. I turned toward the lake, sprinting until my lungs burned. The boathouse stood like a shadow against the lightning. I shoved the door open and fell to my knees, prying up the loose board Daniel had once broken years ago while fixing a leak. Underneath, wrapped in plastic, was a metal folder and another phone. This one switched off. I opened the folder. Inside were printed photos, financial ledgers, and letters showing payments from Equitas, infrastructure group to government officials, journalists, and police. They weren't building surveillance tunnels. They were building data vaults for blackmail. Daniel had uncovered everything. and now I held the evidence. Behind me, footsteps splashed through the puddles. I turned, gripping the heavy folder. Paul, or whoever he was, stood in the doorway, drenched, furious. "You shouldn't have come this far," he said. "Hand it over." Lightning flared again, and for an instant I saw the gun in his hand. I took a deep breath. Then the old landline phone on the wall, the one Daniel had installed decades ago, started ringing. The shrill, metallic sound cut through the thunder. Paul's eyes widened. "What is that?" I didn't answer. I ran for the phone and picked it up. "Anna," said Daniel's voice. Not a recording. Real time. Alive. "I'm at the border," he said, panting. "They think I'm dead. You have the proof. Call the number I gave you and send the data. It's the only way to stop them." Paul shouted something behind me, but I barely heard. "Daniel, they said you—" "No time," he interrupted. "Do it now, and remember, the song will end when it's safe." The line crackled, then gunfire. The call dropped. I turned. Paul was gone. Only the rain and the echo of the shots remained. I looked down at the phone in my hand. Its screen was cracked, but one message had appeared automatically. "Upload complete." For a moment, I didn't understand. Then I saw the laptop in my bag, its indicator light blinking. Somehow, the files were transmitting through the old landline connection. Daniel had triggered it remotely. The boathouse lights flickered. A low hum filled the air, not thunder, but helicopters overhead. Searchlights swept across the trees. I ran out to the pier, clutching the folder to my chest. The sky roared. The lake glowed with the reflection of the searchlights, white and blinding. Then, silence. The phone buzzed one last time. Daniel, calling. Hands shaking, I answered. No words this time. Just the faint sound of waves and his favorite song playing softly in the background, the same one that had first rung in the coffin. It played for 30 seconds, then stopped. And in that silence, I finally understood. The upload had gone through. The data was out. They couldn't erase him anymore. I fell to my knees on the pier, rain pouring down, whispering his name over and over. Somewhere in the distance, sirens echoed. The world would know the truth now, the truth he had died for, twice. When I opened my eyes again, dawn was breaking. The storm had passed. The phone in my hand was dead, its screen dark, but on the wet wood beside me, the blue box floated gently on the water, its lid open, or inside the letters were gone. Only one remained, sealed in plastic, my name written on it. I tore it open with trembling fingers. "My love, if the phone rang again, it means you did what I couldn't. Don't let guilt take the place of peace. Live. Go somewhere they can't reach you. Every time you hear that melody, know it's me, reminding you that truth was worth the cost." The ink had bled from the rain, but I could still read every word. I sat there until the first sunlight touched the lake, gold and quiet. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Not because I understood everything, but because I finally believed him. Love doesn't die with silence. It rings until someone answers. The phone never rang again, but sometimes, when the wind moves across the lake just right, I can swear I still hear that melody. Distant, familiar, calling me home. Wind down, 300 words. The story of Daniel's last call spread everywhere. News stations called it a conspiracy. The company denied everything, but the evidence spoke for itself. The files he'd gathered led to arrests, investigations, and resignations. They called him a whistleblower. I called him my husband. Months later, I moved far from the city. A small coastal town with quiet streets and no reception. No more phones, no more secrets. Just the sea and the sound of waves. Sometimes I walk to the edge of the water and leave my phone on the sand, waiting. It never rings, but that's all right. It already said everything it needed to. Every night I whisper the same words before I sleep. truth before peace. And I thank him for keeping his promise. Even from beyond the line, end of script. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more. View my videos.